Today I'm counting down my top 10 movies of 2017 because 2017 is over and I saw more than 10 movies, so it works. Let's get to it. What is going on, everybody? Santiago here with Cinema Santi, and if you're watching this, then 2017 is over. And with the end of the year, that means awards season is upon us. The Golden Globes are in a couple of weeks, and the Oscars are only 2 months away. And the end of the year brings us an opportunity for reflection, putting things in perspective and seeing where things fall. Because why just watch the movies? This way we can keep the conversation going and the fun doesn't have to stop here. So getting right into it, here are my top 10 movies of 2017. Number 10, Baby Driver. So Augustus Waters took some driving lessons and he is so much better now. The story of a musically coordinated getaway driver named Baby trying to break free from a life of crime might have been the most fun I've had in the theater this year. I'm a big fan of Edgar Wright, and I thought he did well bringing in his trademark playful style while dialing up the intensity on this one. You've got action and tension right beside sharp humor, which makes for a really great ride overall. That being said, some of the character work was a little underdeveloped, and I just couldn't get on board with other characters' sudden personality shifts towards the end, which explains why Baby Driver is kicking off this list. Number 9, Okja. Okja, Okja, Okja. I'm gonna get right to it and say that Okja deserves some attention. South Korean filmmaker Bong Joon-ho brings the social satire yet again with his latest English film, a follow-up to his last film pointing fingers at social structure, Snowpiercer. We've got Not Actually Monsanto against Not Actually PETA, and regardless of your position on this, when these two forces get together, it's about to go down. I'll admit the characters are odd, like all of them. But through all the quirkiness, Tilda Swinton is amazing in her role. Or roles. And you either love or hate Jake Gyllenhaal playing a Jeff Corwin on Helium? That is a 90s throwback for ya. If you do not know Jeff, Google him. He was a national hero. Anyway, the strange cast of characters makes for this alternate reality, hyper blown up version of institutions that are pretty real. And watching that conflict play out on a larger scale was pretty intense. So I say, Okja goes on the list. Number 8, The Disaster Artist. Wait, Santiago, weren't you just praising The Disaster Artist like a couple of weeks ago? Why so far down on the list? Well, you are right, my observant and very smart viewer. I previously broke down The Disaster Artist, a hilarious retelling of the making of the movie The Room, in a review video that you can watch here. And on the surface, I loved this movie, and I stand by everything that I said in my previous review. The acting was stunning, especially from James Franco playing Tommy Wiseau, and the direction was on point. But the competition only gets stiffer as we get closer to the top. And compared to the rest of the films on this list, I just felt like The Disaster Artist didn't bring the compelling story elements we'll see in the movies up ahead. Let's keep going before I change my mind. Number 7, Good Time. You know who's having a good time? Robert Pattinson's acting career. And me. When I was watching this movie. You know who's not having a good time? The guy Robert Pattinson is playing in this movie. In a serious snafu involving a bank heist, con artist slash bank robber Connie, played by Pattinson, needs to bust his developmentally challenged brother out of prison. Over the course of one night, he digs himself deeper and deeper into lies and some pretty shocking circumstances, all in a quest to reunite with his brother. I really enjoyed Good Time because everything we experienced as an audience seemed to be there solely to serve the purpose of the story. The claustrophobic extreme close-ups highlight the smallest facial expressions in a world of con artists where we don't really know who we can trust. And that driving postmodern techno soundtrack makes you think you're having a good time until, kinda like the characters, you realize that maybe you've had enough. Seriously, the close-ups are like closer than this for most of the movie. Number 6, The Big Sick. Movies can score a lot of points in my book by being original, by being funny, and by completely subverting the romantic comedy genre. And that's all of them. The Big Sick does these things, and it does them in a way that makes me wish this was the way that romantic comedies were done from now on. And it does them so effortlessly too. The playful banter between Kumail Nanjiani and Zoe Kazan will put a smile on your face and have you rooting for the couple to get together. But then it totally pulls the rug out from under you, and after that, we're kind of in uncharted territory. You'll laugh in one scene, and then cry in the next, and then cringe in the one after that. This movie just throws so many curveballs. This movie showed me that characters in a romantic comedy can have incredible depth and still bring the laughs. From here on out, the rom-com game has changed for the better, and for that, The Big Sick deserves a spot on this list. Number 5, Dunkirk. Thanks to its summer release date, Dunkirk was an early frontrunner at the top of this list, just as I'm sure it was the early frontrunner for a lot of awards consideration. Hans Zimmer's soundtrack literally uses musical psychology to make you think that the score is continually rising throughout the course of the entire film. And who doesn't love musical psychology? The way that time is depicted in this movie is unlike anything I've ever seen, and it harkens back to Christopher Nolan's work in Memento, a movie that blew my mind. The cinematography in this movie is striking, and the performances we get from Tom Hardy, Mark Rylance, Kenneth Branagh, and Cillian Murphy, to name almost everybody, are solid. But that's about where it levels off for me. You don't get a whole lot more depth beyond what you see on screen, and what you see on the surface of characters is pretty much exactly what you get. While the technical elements were spectacular, I just felt a bit of a disconnect to the characters, which is why Dunkirk falls to the middle of this list. Number 4, Get Out. The year 2017 in movies would not be complete without Get Out. Like, if this list was the top 10 things I'd throw in a time capsule from 2017, Get Out would definitely be in there. My friends might be a little mad at me that it'd take 50 years to return it, but it would be worth it. When I first saw Get Out, I was under the impression that I was just watching a perfect movie. No page in the script goes wasted. It seems that every line of dialogue means something, and every detail that you see becomes crucial at just the right moments. Jordan Peele, in his directorial debut, fired on all cylinders and delivered a story that captures a mood and tone so relevant to our time. I mean, on a metaphorical level. Just go watch the movie, you'll see. It is so difficult to find any sort of flaw with this film, but I am going to say that while the action peaks towards the end, the story elements do seem to start to fall apart as more and more loose ends pop up. It is a very small critique, and you should get out and watch this movie. Get Out. Number 3, Lady Bird. Greta Gerwig is brilliant in her directorial debut. Let's hear it for debuting directors. Gerwig made a film that managed to relate to everybody on some level. Saoirse Ronan plays Christine, aka Lady Bird, a senior in high school who's trying to figure out her place in the world, all while butting heads against her mother's strong personality. This movie will ring true in some way to practically every viewer, and it'll take you back to a time when maybe you were leaving home or applying to colleges, or maybe just trying to figure out who you were going to be after high school. The performances are so real, the dialogue is so witty, and the characters just feel incredibly human. I don't think I related to any characters this year more than I did to the characters in this film. Also, the movie gets serious props for making me believe that there was ever an appropriate moment for a Dave Matthews Band song. Number 2, Mudbound. I did a full review of Mudbound on Letterboxd, which I'll link to below. But just to recap, wow. I caught up with Mudbound way later than I should have, but I am so glad I made time for it here at the end of the year. A true achievement for Netflix and director Dee Reese. It's the story of a black family and a white family working the same farmland in Mississippi during World War II, and the racial tensions between them. All of the technical work in this movie was pinpoint perfect, from the soundtrack, to the gritty camera style, to the period accurate lighting. And then you have the story itself. While I did feel at times that some of the characters lacked clear goals, on the other hand, this is their life. You fight to survive, and there's no bigger goal than that. The poetic voiceover from each individual character really worked for me, and I wish that it would have continued throughout the middle portion of the film. Go stream Mudbound now. It is on Netflix, so you have no excuse. And finally, number 1, The Florida Project. As I'm going through my top 3 picks, I'm sensing a bit of a theme. The top 3 movies present their conflict as an overarching situation or circumstance, but then use that situation to dive deeper into the characters that are living through it. And The Florida Project captures this theme perfectly. It's the story of a mother and a daughter living in a Florida motel near Disneyland Park, but just far enough on the fringes to be reminded that, for the most part, society's forgotten about them. Director Sean Baker conducted thorough work and extensive research to make sure that this movie was as human and true to life as possible, all while withholding judgment and capturing beauty in places that we normally wouldn't expect. The hotel manager, played by Willem Dafoe, give Willem the Oscar, was inspired by real-life hotel managers who operate these hotels, which have inadvertently become temporary living situations for many families. But the story doesn't play out in a predictable way. Instead, it unfolds as smaller stories and day-to-day events that capture the experience of childhood. The kids in these hotels hotels don't mind their situation. To them, they live in a magic castle, and every day offers the chance of a new adventure. In many ways, this movie comments on the wonder of childhood and the way we eventually have to lose that childlike innocence. Check out Florida Project if you get the chance. It is my #1 movie of 2017. And that's my list. Which movies do you agree with? Which ones do you disagree with? I would love to hear more about your 2017 movie-going experience, so let me hear your list or top picks in the comments below, and we will see which movie reigns supreme. Or just have a conversation. This was a really great year for movies. It was not easy to arrive at this list, but my picks are locked in place now. If you like this video, or maybe I got one of your picks right, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more movie reviews. Thank you so much to everybody for watching. You can follow me on Twitter and Letterboxd at CinemaSanti, and I will see you next time.